thank you, Dennis, and everyone here today. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. The title, Regret Less, is essential to this talk. You'll note that it's not regret not, or regret free, or no regret. It's regret less. Maybe even more apropos would be healthy regret. As a matter of fact, I have a little sequence here to set expectations, a little tee up and an assertion. Then maybe a quick definition of what regret is. And I'm fascinated with continua, and I had to look it up because I'm always confused as to whether it's continuums or continua. Technically, they're both correct, for the plural of continuums is. So thirdly, I'll talk about sort of the sequence or the multifaceted nature of regret. We think of it as a thing, a singular thing, but it's not. I'm going to borrow from a third-party expert on this topic, a Dr. Robert Leahy. And he has a playful little list of 8 habits of highly regretful people. And it'll be interesting to see if you hear in that narrative something that we may say to ourselves, or you might say to yourself. A few fun facts, some springboard questions, and that'll be it. So the intro here is kind of short, the live portion, to set the stage for a conversation. So here's the thing we don't think about when we think of regret. We think of it as a bad thing. We think of it as negative. We think of it as, and we even hear heroic figures say, I have no regrets. It's a fallacy. It's an illusion. In fact, regret, the concept of it, is not just something we made up in the 20th or 21st century. It's been around for a long time because that's how we've survived. It goes back to other emotions that are visceral, that keep us alive and help us thrive. Why might we have a fear of heights? It's so we don't fall off a cliff and die. Regret serves a purpose. It's here for us in service to our life and, believe it or not, our happiness. I assert the following. Regret is a learning tool. It's an experimentation mechanism. It's a chance to simulate. We can live and experiment and imagine like no other creature on the planet, to imagine an outcome versus taking risks in real life. It's a learning tool. It's a planning tool. And we often think of regret as something that happened before or didn't happen and we feel bad about it. But actually, it's a plan forward decision-making tool to boot. So by definition, regret is pretty simple. It's either an action taken or an action not taken and not feeling good about it. Onto the continua or continuums. There are multiple degrees and types of regret. There's the idea of, as I just mentioned, looking back. Gee, I wish I did or didn't. An action taken, again, or an action not taken. And they have different dynamics to them. So if we do something and we're hot in the moment, the idea of it's called a hot regret. In the moment I took this action, I had several drinks, jumped in a car and drove. That was not a good idea. That kind of regret is a hot regret in the moment. However, there are other regrets that are more subtle, but they're sustainable. And those are the long-term actions not taken. I wish I took that job, but I didn't. These aren't as hot and dramatic as the former, but they nag at us, right? We can be decades later saying, man, if I only just took that job. Now, I consulted with ChatGPT, and I kind of regret that I did that to a degree because I'm intrigued by how doggone good it is as to if I were to be doing a 15-minute talk, what would you think? And it was almost dizzying how much it came up with. So I resisted tapping it too much, but it did make a suggestion to tell a story and to personalize this. So I'm going to keep it super brief. My story is like 2 seconds. When I was in the IT industry, there was this guy, I won't mention his name, but he is like one of the top names on the planet in IT and technology. I probably could have rode ridden his coattails to continued success in the IT industry. And I chose not to. I kind of let it fade away. I don't have some burning regret in my life over that. I'm not like waking up in the middle of the night in hot regret. But every once in a while, I think about it. And it's been 30 years later. So the choices taken and the choices not taken have different dynamics and timelines to them. They have different intensity to them as well. The other kinds of things that we would consider when we look at regret in terms of a continua or continuum is healthy or not healthy. So, for example, if I learn something, if I chalk it up to experience, if I use it as a growth opportunity, then that's pretty healthy. If I ruminate, if I constantly go back to it over and over, that's not necessarily healthy. If I'm taking corrective action from a regret, that's healthy. If I'm criticizing myself and shaming myself, not so much. So back to Dr. Leahy. Here's a list of highly regretful people, the habits they have. Number one, look back on your life and think how much better you would be if you have been and done something else. Number two, dwell on all the negatives that you have experienced and discount all the positives. Number three, idealize the choices you did not take. Number four, insist that you should have known better. Better yet, number five, criticize yourself for not knowing better. Number six, measure your choices by the best outcomes you can possibly imagine. Number seven, never accept the trade-off. It's got to be perfect. 100%. I must be positive or else. Number eight, when considering a choice, insist that you need to know everything about the choice before making a decision. No response required, but do you hear yourself in any of that narrative? I know I do sometimes. So some fun facts about regret. If I really think through this carefully and consider all the facts and take my time, look at all the options, I will have less regret. Guess what? Not true. The more perfect we try to be, the longer we contemplate a decision and anticipated regret, that's the look forward. Sometimes we think of regret just past. Quite often it's our decision making on will we regret going forward? Think through it, get all the facts. The fact is, the more we do that, almost it's impossible not to regret more. Research has shown this. These are the kinds of things we don't expect when we think of regret. Perfection is an illusion. And if our expectations are unrealistic, we'll always be let down. Dr. Leahy talks about risk versus risk. If we insist that the outcome chosen must be great, terrific, perfect, we'll always be disappointed. If we're conservative and have our money in a money market, we risk not getting a big return. If we go into the market, we risk losses if the market crashes. So it's never perfect. We'll drive ourselves crazy trying to have the perfect decision. There's interesting science behind some of this too. In fact, I can remember the term. I think it's called the rebound effect. And the rebound effect is part of unhealthy regret. What it is trying to regulate our regretfulness. There's an irony here, a paradox, that if we are constantly saying, I have no regrets, I'm not going to regret, the act of trying not to regret itself creates regret. And then we go into a narrative that sounds something like this. Oh my gosh, I can't get off the regret thing. Why do I keep ruminating about this, which creates more regret? I guess there was a study at Harvard or somewhere where students were asked not to think of a white bear. Guess what happened, right? all they could think about is white bear. And then there was a discussion about trying not to think about white bears, which makes you think about white bears. So catch ourselves when we can, when we start to ruminate, repeat, especially we go into shaming, self-critique versus corrective action. So I have a couple questions to springboard our discussion and a little recommendation, something that I constructed with ChatGPT. And it is the following. When you feel a regret coming on, kind of like an urge, it could be a small decision or a big one. Expect it. Label it, number one. Number two, prescribe yourself some medicine. What did I learn? So there's that regret thing, number one. Number two, what am I possibly going to learn or have I learned with this? And then repair. Prepare, expect, prescribe, and repair. Maybe next time I won't say that nasty thing. Take the moment, give yourself a gift, the permission to say, you know what, that wasn't the best idea. I want to learn from it and grow. All right, so question.